Hey everyone, this is the Love of Cinema podcast. We like to talk movies. If you like to talk movies too, you come to the right place.
It's right now titled The Secret of Shiledars. The Secret of Shiledars means it's actually a treasure hunt. And the Shiledars in my story are the safekeepers of the treasure. So it is based on a very famous book that released in Marathi. This was called Patipash Chandra.
Hey guys, this is Himanshu and you're listening to the Love of Cinema podcast. On this episode, we'll be picking up from where we left off on last episode, the remainder of my conversation with director Aditya Sarpotdar. So if you haven't listened to the previous episode, I would recommend doing that before listening to this episode. Also, as always, an important reminder. If you enjoy organic conversations centered on Indian cinema, Love of Cinema podcast was created for people just like you. So if you enjoy the pod, please do consider supporting the show. Love of Cinema podcast is my labor of love. And with every episode, I've attempted to create something that cinephiles will continue to find value, not just today, but over time as well. If you find value in the conversations on the pod, please do consider supporting the show. Your support will help me continue creating content with shelf life for fans of Indian cinema everywhere. You'll find the link to support the show in the show notes. You can also support the show directly from the podcast website. It's fast, it's easy, and your support is greatly appreciated. Also, if you like the episode, please share the episode on social media, as that will help other people discover the podcast. With that, here's the second part of my conversation with Aditya Sarpotdar, where we chatted about Aditya's favorite films and shows, his A R Rahman fandom, why he loves A24, and other cool stuff. Here goes.
Most of my friends are not from the industry.
Oh, really? Okay.
90% of my friends are not from the industry because I've grown up in Pune, where the film industry was not it's not the main business there. Right? Hardly you'll find people in Pune who are from the industry. So they are. So I have all my friends from Prabhat Road, Vandarkar Road, that entire side of town.
Yeah.
So you would totally understand. There's this whole going to the US, getting engineering
yes.
students.
Sounds familiar, yes.
So most of them have traveled to the US, my school friends, and they've come back. A few of them are here, a few of them are still there.
Right.
So the thing is, whenever I meet them after a long time, big gap of time, the first thing they ask me is, give us some gossip about the industry. I'm like, why do you only want to know gossip? They're like, that's the most interesting bit. Tell us some gossip. Who's dating who? Who's kind of seeing who?
But Aditya, like when you were growing up in Pune, did you hang out with actors' kids or producers' kids? No, since your family was already in the business.
That's my point. That's my point. In Pune, you'll never hardly find any actors.
Right, they are all in Mumbai. Yes, yeah,
all in Mumbai. So I have had some really fond memories more or less every summer.
Right.
I used to spend a month and a half in Mumbai. So it used to be a thing since I remember from the age 8, 9, 7, 8, in fact, till I was in 6th, 7th, 8th paranta. I used to come very frequently to Mumbai during any holidays that used to be. And I used to stay at either Ashok Saraf's house or Lakshmikant Birde's house or Sachin Brigawat.
Used to be one
of the three.
Yeah.
And for me, they were never like film actors. They were for me like Kaka. I used to call them Ashok Kaka, Lakshya Kaka.
Right.
Sachin Kaka. I still
and were their kids same age as you at that time?
So they were all younger than me. Their kids were all younger. I've got a younger sister. So Sachin Spivaka's daughter Shriya is my more or less my younger sister's age. So she used to call me Aditya Dada. I still so Ashok Saraf's son is in Canada now, Aniket, and he calls me Aditya Dada. So I am like their Dada for them because they were all at least 3 years or more younger.
Right.
Even Vinay Berde, when kind of I've seen him as he's very small, a baby. So these memories have been so as you said, I have I remember, it's a very funny incident though. I remember Adinath Kothari had done a film as a child actor called
Okay.
Maza Chakula. And those who've known those movies from the 90s will know this. So Maza Chakula was a pretty well-known film, and Mahesh Kothari was the producer of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the film had premiered in Pune at Prabhat Talkies, very famous theater in Pune, and most film premieres used to happen at Prabhat.
Right.
So I remember going there, and Adinath is my age, right? Exactly my age. So after the premiere, in those times in the 90s, they used to have a bus, and the actors used to all get into a bus. The team used to get into the bus, and in that bus, they used to do tours. They used to go from Pune, they used to go to Mumbai, then they used to have a premiere in Mumbai, or mostly from Pune to Kolhapur, then to Mumbai. So there used to be these shows that the team used to attend. So I remember after that show at Prabhat in Pune, the whole team kind of went and sat in the bus. I found the bus so amusing, and Adinath was my friend, so I just hopped in and I said, I don't want to get out of. I want to travel with this team. I had nothing to do with the film, but I just kind of joined them, and I don't know why. But for me, it was like, "Arey, it's my friend," and I had no idea what the whole movie making business and the whole deal was. It's always been like a very an environment you've grown up with, and see, I correlate that a lot to a lot of people from the other industries. Like I tell them that I have a few friends whose father are doctors, whose mother is doctor, who himself that my friends are doctors. So I'm like when you I've seen them grow up around family clinics and go to a hospital visit. So it's kind of a thing for them. It's a very regular thing. That lifestyle is what you've grown up leaving, like you've grown up understanding or knowing. So it's just a way of life, man. I think it's each family and their business to their own. But for
Right.
me, it was never the glamour of it was never
Right.
something that kind of really I was ever attracted by. I in fact used to be very surprised as a kid growing up that I used to have my father's really good friend was Nitish Bharadwaj, who is known as Krishna from Mahabharat. And he was so big then, and I had no idea about this. So whenever he used to come to our house, someone used to see him enter, and then we used to live on Gole Road near Ferguson College. So at the gate of our bungalow, there used to be a line of people, just to see him. They would bring the kids and they would come to just touch his feet, and I used to be like, "What's wrong with these people?" And they used to think he's Krishna. Krishna has come. So I used to find that very odd, and it took me some time to understand. Okay, this is a part and parcel of the fame that comes with it. But I've seen the other side also of this, which is it gets very taxing, man. I can imagine you don't have a personal life. You can't go anywhere and be yourself out in the space that you're known. You have to really travel to some countries abroad or kind of even go to places where television had not reached then. But now it's impossible. Now with social media, though, it's very difficult. But yeah, see, I like my very fond memories have been, I remember uh, Ashok Saraf and Lakshmikant Brady used to live in the same building in Andheri West, and they were actually neighbors, two floors, fourth, fifth, and sixth, or fourth and fifth floor. They used to live over and above. So I remember going to his house for 10 days and the other house for 10 days, kind of, and they used to kind of meet up and they used to have these really long gappa sessions. They used to have so much fun, and I used to just laugh at their jokes. So for me, there used to be these funny uncles, who come home, or whose house you go to stay, and who got a great sense of humor. So that's it. I think now I get when I've kind of joined the industry. When I grew up, I understood, they're stars and people really look up at them. But I think, yeah, that's how it was.
No, that's all very interesting. So I
Okay.
think we left off last time we were talking about all of your movies, and I think we finished talking about all the movies. So let's talk about the future projects and the stuff that you want to do. The first thing, of course, I want to ask you about Vampires of Vijayanagar, what that is all about.
That's exactly what I've been doing Recce for, man. I have not been able to
Oh,
complete
okay.
this.
I see. So this is
I've been
going
on
on
the
floors now.
starting shoot in a month and a half on the film.
Great.
So kind of really running against time in that sense to get the film ready to go on floor. But this has been a film that I've been writing and working for a good 5 to 6 months. This started after Munja's shoot got over. And Amar Kaushik, who is also a producer on Munja, came to me and he said, I was supposed to do this film initially, but I think you should do it because you would be the right person to do a film like this. So I said, okay, great, let me give it a shot. And I started writing it, and it's kind of taking shape really well now. So we should start shooting in a month and a half. And we should wrap the shoot by Feb. So the plan is to release this film around this same time next year, if all goes well. And I have been doing my location hunting for the past good 1 month or so. So it's been a lot of traveling in Delhi and Agra and Mathura and those areas. But it's fun. It's fun, and it's kind of you kind of get the gist of it when you say vampires, what it could be. But just to be more specific, it is my Indian version of vampires. So I do not borrow from the European or the American vampires that people have known of. I have kind of found a very interesting folklore, a mythical story that connects to Indian vampires and what we are and what our reference to vampires are. So I'm trying to kind of build my world around it. But it's a love story. It is that Beauty and the Beast space, where the beast is the vampire and the love story of a human and a vampire. But I'm sure it is going to be something that is going to be, again, world building, getting people into a different visual setup. And it's exciting. It's something I've never done before. I have not attempted vampires. I've done zombies, but it's a whole different game.
When you're is it set in present day?
It's present. Yeah. So it goes to flashbacks, but the whole story happens in 2020. So when you're kind of building vampires into a present day scenario and then kind of writing a story around that, also making it a bit of comedy and having fun with it, it is quite challenging. So yeah, we're giving it a shot.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, because I don't think we have really had any kind of vampire movies,
Never
so
it's movie on vampires.
Yes. And
we had a very, very pulpy TV serial, I would say, on vampires.
Oh yeah, was that the Ekta Kapoor one?
Yeah. We've had that.
Yes.
So for me, the task is going to be really steering away from what. But see, again, that series, I would say, has borrowed a lot from, you could say, Twilight, or from all stuff we've known of. And I don't want to kind of mimic it, because I feel there's nothing new that you're bringing to the table there. Because, I have seen Bram Stoker's Dracula. I have seen the Twilight series. I've seen all of that. Why should I kind of repackage it and show it to the Indian audience in the same avatar? It's no fun. So we're kind of trying to do our own thing. Let's see where we get to with this film.
Have you seen Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah.
I love that film.
See, I think there's this whole genre that comes into vampire hunters and their films, like Van Helsing. So you have so many of those. Blade is again one of those films where I think you have a vampire hunter who's the protagonist of those films, and then you have films about vampires who are protagonists. So in my film, vampire hunters don't exist. It's not the vampire hunters against vampires. It is the vampires and the humans. So it is very different from those Abraham Lincoln, Van Helsing, and Blades. But I would say that I've been kind of very, I would say, from a very young age. I don't know when. I don't have a very clear date or an age in mind, but I have kind of always been hooked to these kind of movies, man. I've been watching them and when they have released. It's not like I've seen them 10 years later. So I think this somehow kind of fascination about these odd genres has always been there since childhood, I think. I would say Star Movies is the one who got us, the channel that got us really aware of these films. Because otherwise, I don't think all of these films ever release in theaters in India here. Most of them did kind of must have even for a couple of shows here and there. But as kids, we never knew of those. But we kind of saw all of them on Star Movies. So I remember my memories of all these films are from watching them on Star Movies or HBO.
Yeah. One of my favorite vampire movies is John Carpenter's Vampires. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
I love that movie.
Yeah. My favorite in the original sense of it would be, again, Coppola's Dracula. I really love it.
Absolutely. Stunner of a film. Yeah.
That film, I found his take to be very unique. And it was, again, him staying very true to the book, but the kind of stuff he invented in terms of design costume, in terms of, storytelling. He kind of did really some innovative stuff. So I love that in the classical sense of stuff, but in the genuine horror comedy sense of it, I loved What We Do in the Shadows. The series is great, but the film is better.
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yes.
I think it is phenomenal. I died. I could not stop laughing when I saw the movie. I did not expect what to watch in it, and when it just started, I kind of got to the first 10 minutes, and I realized the tone of the film is very unique. So once you're sold onto that tone, you kind of enjoy the ride. So I love. It's one of my favorite horror comedies, I would say.
Cool. So that's the space. So this is like a drama, like a vampire drama space.
This is this. I would not call it just drama. I would call it a vampire, a supernatural,
Okay.
and the supernatural horror comedy love story. It's got multiple genres. Man.
Okay.
It's been a task kind of handling those. But see, what has happened is, and the larger realization that I've had after Munja, and now more over with 3-2 coming in theaters in the next 2 days. When you make a film under the Maddox banner, you are expected to make a film that has to be funny and horrifying. It's an expectation.
It's a brand.
It's not.
Yeah.
You just choose to not do, because people are going to come to the theaters wanting to watch a horror comedy if it's produced by Maddox. And now, moreover, if it's done by a team that has done Stree and now Munja and all these films, people are going to come to theater saying, "Arey, in logo ka film hai, to it has to be funny, horrifying also, and fun." So you kind of have to understand that when you're attempting. So with Bhedia, my writer, who's Niren Bhatt, is also the one who wrote Bhedia. So his learning and Amar's learning from Bhedia was exactly this: that you try to attempt a different genre, you stay true to the genre, but when the audience comes to the theaters, they expect also as a film, when it comes under a certain banner and a certain universe, to watch a certain kind of entertainment. So we are kind of keeping ourselves aware of this also, because I do feel that when you put a trailer and a poster out, people have already made up their minds about what the film could be and has to be. So no matter how much you try to tell them that, okay, this is not this genre but that, they're going to believe what they want to believe. So
right.
Yeah.
And this is a film, right? This is not a series.
It's a feature film. Yeah.
Right. And then you're also doing a series, I believe, right? Which is in the action adventure space.
That's going to release in the next month. That series is ready for.
Nice. What's it called?
So it's right now titled The Secret of Shiledars. The Secret of Shiledars means it's actually a treasure hunt, and the Shiledars in my story are the safekeepers of the treasure. So it is based on a very famous book that released in Marathi. This was called Pratibhash Chandra.
Oh yes,
and
yes.
Was a that we got rights of, and I have made that into a series.
Oh wow! Okay, that sounds really exciting too.
Very interesting genre. It is a completely out and out action adventure meets treasure hunt, and the book is about. It's a contemporary show. It's set in 2024, but it's about the hunt for Shivaji Maharaj's lost throne. So his throne was never found.
Right.
After Raigad, and it was looted, Zulfikar never ever found the throne. So still there is no clear evidence of what could have happened to it. So the author, Prakash Koide, has very smartly written a very interesting setup where the throne could have been, and how the clues to where the throne is have been very smartly set up in different monuments in different areas. So you've got this new age treasure hunters looking for the throne through kind of decoding these clues.
Okay. And I don't know if you can talk about this, but can you share the cast of the show?
Yeah, I can definitely. It's got Rajiv Khandelwal in it. It's got Sai Tamhankar. It's got Ashish Vidyarthi. It's got Dilip Prabhakar, Nandu Madhav, and a lot of more actors. It's like an ensemble cast of actors who.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So Aditya, let's talk about your favorites. So I'd asked Aditya to send me a list of his favorites. And the reason for that was because I wanted to, hear him talk about the films or shows, the moments, the characters from those films that have stayed with him. And, this is one
Yeah.
of the things that I like to do on the podcast. And I think listeners of the podcast will know this, that I often ask, the guest on the podcast to tell me a little bit more about their favorites, because I like to pick
Yeah.
their brains as to, know as to, so for example, I liked, Aditya Zombivli. So here is a man who made that film. Then what was he thinking about when he was watching this film, which obviously, a lot of
Right.
other people have seen as well. So that's the kind of thing that I love to do. So
Lovely.
I have this list, Aditya, that you sent me. So I'll just like pretty much
So,
like just go down the list, and
we,
we'll just talk about it like
I tell
very
you what,
casually.
this list is a very common list for a lot of people. It is a
Yes.
very iconic list, and I have been doing this for the last how many ever years I remember. Since I started working in the film industry, I have whoever I've met, like young filmmakers, actors, whoever has come to me asking me for what film they should watch, and we just kind of sometimes just have this discussion. This I've got a day off, I want to watch something. What should I watch? I've always told them that download this IMDb top 250 list and start from the back, from the number 250 and reach one and watch all of them. These are iconic movies. So a lot of people I know of have done it and they've loved this whole journey they've made over those 250 movies. So yeah, I think my movies do come from that list.
Great. Aditya, let's start by talking about Breaking Bad, which is a show I love too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it it actually does kind of break new ground as well. So but would love to hear why you dig this show so much.
So I'll tell you what, for me, that show, I came onto that show, or I saw the show really late, and I don't know why. I had not seen the show until I saw the first season and I binged it. I had no idea I was going to binge this show. I was just writing Faster Finney. So 2017 is when I watched Breaking Bad, and I think it's released in 2008, the first season. So it kind of 9 years later, I saw this show, and I really I regret not having seen it earlier, because when I saw the show, I still feel that it is the best series I've seen on any platform or on a smaller screen, the best. And I highly rate it because it's not a big budget show. It's not a big star cast show, although they are known actors, but it scores, I think, top marks on at every department. It's one of the best written shows, best performed shows, one of the best directed shows, and it's so iconic that I do feel, even today, after so many years, where we've seen so much of content being made, it still for me is the number one show that I've seen, like right up there. So yeah,
And what were your some of the creative takeaways from that show?
I feel that, see, we've kind of always grown up and learned when we've kind of started writing or making movies that the most quintessential thing when you're making a movie in the story of it is the character arc. Where you see the journey of the protagonist. You see him start at point A, and when the film ends, he has to reach a certain kind of a certain level of understanding, or it could be a backward journey also, but he has to reach somewhere else from where he was. And I think this show has the best character arc I have ever read, or have seen. So it just scores great at how Walter White starts at what level and at where when this season ends and you see him sitting in this car in that freezing snow, you what an amazing journey he's had. And I have loved the fact that it is so human in terms of emotions, in terms of understanding the emotions of um, characters who are extremely, I think, who've got intentions, who are extremely wild, also extremely dark, but you still get them, and you get dark spaces that these really great characters also go into. Like when Jesse goes through his entire addiction phase, or when you kind of see even Walter White go crazy, his obsession about just getting revenge and going ballistic about things that he does. You understand and you sympathize with them. You feel for them. I think it's a very difficult space to make work. When you're writing shows with so many seasons, and be consistent and going one step up every season you write. So I think these guys, the writers, have done a fabulous job.
I totally agree with you. And especially the thing that you said about character arc. I mean, Vince Gilligan and his writers are so good at
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I think they kind of double down on that on their next show, Better Call Saul, where
yeah.
that character arc is even, more. I mean, it's just like a
But
blowout.
I don't know. You might kind of don't judge me on this, but with Better Call Saul, I saw the first season and I just did not proceed, not because I didn't like it. I think it was brilliant, but I felt, I just did not. I was so attached to Breaking Bad that I could not watch a show without Bryan Cranston. I could not. I just could not watch because the same world. You get a feel of that world. It's the team that's made it, and it's the same team and the same world that's kind of gone ahead and kind of taken this offshoot of a journey. So I just could not see Jesse and Walter not being a part of that world. And irrespective of how amazing you have the entire cast there, right from Bob to all of them, they're brilliant. But no man, I could not see that. So I still, it's in my list of shows that I would want to one day kind of really go back to and binge.
Yeah, yeah.
But I get you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. You can revisit it maybe after a few years, once
Yeah,
you can
maybe.
detach yourself a little bit from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Aditya, I remember watching one of your interviews where you said you're a big fan of the A24 horror movies. And
More than a fan, I would say I'm a big fan of A24 in general, of the production house.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The slate that they have. Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite A24 movie?
So recently I saw, I don't know which one should I pick because they're great, man, all of them. I don't know which interview you're talking about. Is this the interview in which I said that or somebody was comparing A24, and I was reading a thread on Reddit actually last 2-3 days ago, where there were some people discussing that why isn't A24 in India, like kind of a production company, which is purely committed to creating great content. Why are they not? Why don't we have an Indian version of A24? And I totally agree, man, because I feel A24 is they've hardly gone wrong. I don't remember them kind of having gone wrong with the films they've made. There's one movie I'd seen of theirs. I'll tell you which movie. I forgot the name of it. It's about a young boy who skateboards. It's a coming of age movie about this boy. I'll tell you the name of this.
Midnight?
Famous. It's an American movie in the mid-90s. I think mid-90s.
That was the Jonah Hill directorial, right?
Is it? I think so. It's about a skateboarder, and that was my first film of A24 that I've seen. my journey kind of with A24 started with that movie.
Okay.
And so Midsommar would be my favorite in that sense.
Yeah. I would have guessed, yes.
But also, see, I like this little, what would you say? It's not commercial horror, but X was in that space. Midsommar was more classic,
Yes.
I mean, even Hereditary and Midsommar both were very classic. I have not seen. I wanted to see Pearl, but I can't find it.
Okay.
I can't find it to watch it. And the problem with A24, majorly in India, is you can't get a hold of all of their films because not all are accessible in Indian platforms here.
Do you guys have Canopy in India, the streaming service Canopy?
We don't.
They have a lot of A24 titles.
But that's what, we kind of, I really eventually have to find these films somewhere illegal streaming platforms because there's no option. But I think the films that they've made over a period of the last, I would say, 15 to 20 years, phenomenal. How do you look at them in the American context of movies? Like, do you look at them as these indie films, or do you look at them as mainstream movies now?
I mean, I still don't think they have breached that mainstream space because it's still. I mean, everybody likes A24, but I still think that everybody still looks at A24 as a niche, like a boutique, production and distributor. So I don't think they're that mainstream. They have made some movies, which
I think the recent movie that I saw of theirs was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Exactly. Right. And that was a huge success. So
Civil War also, I think, is a very big budget show film in the A24 space of movies that they've made.
yes, yes. And they have a follow-up to Ty West's new movie. What's it called? Maxine, I think. That's coming out.
Okay, I've not seen that movie.
But Pearl is good. Aditya, I liked it more than X, so definitely watch it.
I do. Then I wouldn't rate X as my best film, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
But Midsommar is a film that I can watch again, and I can kind of suggest that movie too, because it's cult. It's that whole folklore horror again, and it shocks you, man. I was not ready for what the film had to kind of the story was. I was not aware of the film. I just, because it was an A24 movie, I just said, oh, it's a horror movie, let me watch it. And then how it takes a turn, and how you start kind of seeing things happening in that cult. Yeah, man, that was quite shocking, and a great, super lovely movie.
It is. And what do you think about Wicker Man?
So Wicker Man, I think I unfortunately saw the Nicolas Cage version of it. Isn't that the second version?
The second, yes.
Back to the original. And I think Wicker Man, as an idea and as a plot, is great. I think it's brilliant that, you have got a detective who travels to this island somewhere to investigate a murder, and then you kind of see the whole island against him, and you see what's going on. So fantastic movie, man. The original, I would say. Even the Nicolas Cage one was not bad, but I think it was a little hammy in places.
It was.
But the original one was outstanding.
Absolutely. I think the original one is one of those movies that is, up there in terms of like world building, like you said, and just creating that ambience, and creating that tension. So I really love that film. And
totally.
Just looking at your list.
In my list, I would also, I don't know if I put all these movies. I feel one of my favorite horror movies is also being this film called The Orphanage. It's a Spanish movie, El Orfanato. It's a brilliant movie, brilliant film. Highly recommend it. Then there's a movie called, I'm sure you might know this film, The Others, with Nicole Kidman in it. I love that movie. Sixth Sense, definitely one of my favorite horror dramas. I would not really call it a horror movie, but I saw it as a young kid, and for me, it was horrifying. I've had like sleepless nights actually after having seen that film.
It is scary, spooky.
I did not see dead people, but I did see. I see flashes of a lot of dead people in my nightmares. So as the kid, I had nightmares after that movie, but that's very rare. I don't feel that. I remember watching The Omen. I remember that visual of the boy in the 666 that you find on his head, and I kind of really, that freaked me out. But in the climax of Sixth Sense is for me equally shocking and crazy.
Yeah, and
so these, I think, are phenomenal, man. I think in horror movies, it's very difficult to kind of. So there was a phase that was very Korean horror. Then again, Ring, and you had a lot of those movies that came, which were really good films. Then you had then I kind of got hooked onto a lot of Japanese horror, which I loved. Then I got hooked onto again Spanish horror that I loved, and then American and British horror again. So I think everyone has their own style of how they perceive horror, and eventually it is the same kind of those jump scares, but the films that don't employ these tactics, are the ones that are the most I think amazing. They're most impactful. That they kind of very subtly bring that they pull you into that mood, of horror. Like the film that I saw recently, which did not have a lot of jump scares, but was a good horror film, was Long Legs. I saw that in the theater.
I've yet to watch it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watch
it. I think it was a very, very interesting, very interesting. So I have a memory of this one Marathi film that had released in theater, which was called Lapa Chupi.
Oh yeah,
and it was produced by and directed actually by a friend of mine, Vishal Furia. And Vishal's film was in theaters, and I still remember there's this old theater which is not there anymore called 24 Carat. This theater used to be there in Andheri West, Jogeshwari, that side. And it's a big single screen theater. And I had not seen that film, and I thought I'm going to miss out on it. And it was the last Thursday, and I was sure that this film is not going to be stay in theaters from tomorrow onwards. So I just made it a point that I went to the theater. I reached there. That guy said at the window that nobody's bought a ticket, so we're not going to have the show go run. And I said, why? I'm there. So he put a condition in front of me that you have to buy five tickets. So I said, I'll buy those. I bought 5 tickets, and for a 7 p.m. show on a Thursday evening, I sat alone in the theater and I
Oh my God.
saw a horror movie. But that was an amazing experience. I remember calling Vishal and telling him this, man, and he's like, I don't know how to react because I don't know why there's nobody else in the theater. But the fact that you kind of got the full experience, I think it's crazy, man, to be watching a good horror movie sitting alone in a big single screen theater. Yeah.
Would you like to do an out and out horror film?
I would love to do an out and out horror film, but I'm sure that making an out and out horror film, even today in India, for a theatrical, makes no sense. I feel we do not have the audience that kind of, or then you kind of do it just for the kicks of it. You do it with a producer and yourself who kind of that you're going to kind of go all out in making a horror film, and you might just not make the money back. Because see, for me, I would rate, when you said out and out pure horror, I would not call a romantic horror a pure horror film. I would not call film like Shaitan a pure horror film. These are very horror, or they are again films that use horror as a trope of telling stories. But the film that we spoke about, I think I still feel to a great extent, Tumbad was a
Tumbad is definitely an out and out horror. Yeah.
And see, Tumbad kind of gave you that insight also that Tumbad should have done, if you ask me, a lot of business because it was a very well made film. But I do feel in the Indian space, you have a very limited audience that is a genuine horror audience, and you have that. And I'm not saying you don't have that audience, but you have a limited number of that audience. And making a horror film, you have to get the film to the theaters because the experience of watching a horror film is the best in a theater.
Absolutely.
It's actually a major disservice to a horror film when you watch it at home on a small screen. It's no fun. It has to be seen in a closed enclosed dark theater. So I do feel that if you're going to go with a genuine horror film, then you kind of have to keep it low budget, and then you have to go and make it the way Ram Gopal Verma did. Very successful with Bhoot and with Raat. He did that very well. I think a lot of Malayalam, so a couple of films that I've seen which are good horror films also have managed to do that. So if I ever get a chance to do that, I would love to do it. But if you kind of expect a big scale horror film, commercial horror film, then genuine horror commercial films are very difficult to make. And you kind of have a lot of actors in America who are stars, big stars who headline a horror film. But in India, you don't have those because then stars would not be in a. So in Malayalam cinema, you see a lot of stars doing horror films. You see big names like Prithviraj and all these big names have done horror. It's not we have not. But in Hindi, you will not see a lot of big stars doing horror now, unless you have something that kind of has a trope, which is again an extension of horror. But I do feel till you don't get these big names doing horror films, you will never be able to build on the audience of horror. So the only film I do remember where there were stars in it was a film called Bhul Bhulaiya. But even Bhul Bhulaiya was not a genuine horror film. It was a horror comedy.
Right.
So yeah, so I think it's a very tricky space to be in. But sometime in the near future, I would love to do a genuine low budget horror movie for the kicks of it, nothing else, but just to have fun with horror film. Yeah.
What's just roughly what's a budget that you think that is a bare minimum to make a good world-class comedy? Horror movie.
A decent, but see, you keep the actors aside because eventually the actors kind of here change the whole game in terms of numbers. If you cast well-known faces, the whole number game changes. But if you cast relatively lesser-known faces but great actors who have done good work or have come from theater, and if you make a film that is not a big demanding film in terms of scale and budget, I think you can make a good horror film in the range of around 8 to 10 crores. and maybe lesser also, if you know your space and if you have a limited world building that you need to do. I saw a movie called Bhutakalam. I don't know if you've seen that film.
Yeah.
And that film again,
Revati one, right?
yeah, I think it's a very small budget film because it's just the house, the film that happens there. So that film,
Even
I
the
would-
latest, the last Mammootty film. I mean, that
Ramai-
looked like a low budget film, right?
yeah, but no, I still feel they have spent on that film because they've built some sets. They've kind of gone out and
Okay.
or out in terms of makeup design, and they have spent on the film. You can't compare the spend on that film to big budget films because I'm sure they keep budgets really low in Malayalam cinema and they are great at it. And it's something to learn from, for a lot of filmmakers, that how Malayalam filmmakers really can make very good stuff, very good content in really low budgets. But in terms of the budget of, I would say, if you ask me, I think Bhutkalam was the smartest horror film I have seen. But again, unfortunately, that film did not release in theaters. Or if it did, I did not know about it. I'm sure it did not. It went straight to OTT. So I saw it on OTT. Otherwise, I'm sure I wouldn't have missed watching the film in theaters. So for me, it was not the greatest of experiences watching it on OTT.
Sure.
Although I loved it, but I wish it had that experience. I would have been a theater experience. But again, the same logic, that you need to make films for building that audience with a little kind of push the setup a little more. You kind of need to make the films in the space that A24 is making. I would say, these films do have known faces. They don't have big stars, but they do still have a decently known faces. So if you do that in India, you might just get an audience that kind of. But again, we have folklore that we can build around because
Right.
the Indian audience do understand folklore better. And Tumbad was that's why I gave that example, is because I feel they did it really well. And those films now Tumbad in 24 would have been a different story altogether if it would have released now. So I'm really hoping now. See, Rahi is a very good filmmaker. He's making another series and even a film.
Yes.
So I'm sure he tells his stories the way he has told Tumbad. He will build his own audience, and you will have their audience who will be very faithful to his cinema.
Yeah, and I think the audience is going to build up exponentially, like very soon. So, and then a couple of these small films on your list of favorites, Aditya. It's called Godfather 1 and 2. So,
Godfather 1 and 2 are small films. Which are they small films, man?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Let's talk about those two films. I mean, there is so much to like about that.
One film that I have mentioned is Goodwill Hunting.
Oh yeah. I love that film.
That is a small film, but that is an amazing film. But yeah, okay, let's get back to Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I
think two obscure films. Yeah.
Yeah, Godfather 1 and 2 are iconic movies, man. And I feel it's very difficult always to make great sequels. Like I felt Home Alone was a great sequel. Terminator was a great sequel. Which other movies have had great sequels? Like the second part being better than the first. Like Lagero Munna Bhai, I think, was a better sequel to the first.
Definitely, yes.
A lot of movies I feel have had really good sequels. So Godfather is one of those, which I felt the sequel of it, just purely the story and the idea, the screenplay, the way you see these two timelines, I think it was phenomenal. So, again, iconic direction, performances, design, such a different movie to kind of make and watch. And I feel I have seen rarely movies that have been adapted to such a massive, extensive way, the way The Godfather has been. Like, even if you ask me, one of my favorite renditions of Godfather in India has been a film called Virasat. Not many people know this. Virasat is a very well-made Godfather in the Indian space. So, yeah, even I don't know if you can call it so, but Animal in a way was their own take at Godfather.
Yeah,
the film that
absolutely. I actually saw Animal as a cross between Joker and Virasat. So
because Joker and Godfather, for that matter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
totally.
it's funny that you bring that up, but Yeah, so many adaptations of Godfather. I mean, right from those 80s.
So another interesting thing that we can talk about is the fact that not many, unfortunately, not many people know this, but an amazing show called The Offer. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yes, yeah,
Has
yeah,
how The Godfather 1 was made, and I think it's a brilliant show. And I've
yeah.
kind of suggested to so many people, but they don't know about it. But I think that's again how
Great show.
even a making of The Godfather would be so interesting and exciting to watch.
Yes,
This
yes.
just proves and shows how an amazing film Godfather in itself was.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean,
what
once you watch the show, you appreciate these films even
yeah,
more.
and what iconic actors man that film had. Like you can't Robert Duvall, Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, outstanding.
And I think going back to Good Will Hunting, I love that film as well, and it's one of my favorite Robin Williams film as well as a Matt Damon film. But yeah, tell me, what do you dig about Good Will Hunting? Like any
The
favorite?
philosophy, what philosophy that film has.
Yeah,
Even today, like I am a big sucker for soundtracks, OSTs. I really collect a lot of OSTs, and that film has one of the best music that I've heard in films for a long time. And I still remember that scene, from the movie where you've got Ben Affleck go to the last scene in the film where you have him go to his house and then kind of wait at the door and realize this guy just left,
he's
and you
gone.
just get smile on his face that he's kind of just gone, and he just goes back, sits in his car and drives. What an amazing film that is. And just the interaction that Robin Williams and Matt Damon have throughout the film is phenomenal. Like it just goosebumps. I still feel one of the finest actors I've seen in cinema has been Robin Williams, and I think he's highly underrated, and he's done some terrific performances. And for me, one of his best, I would not say the best, but one of his best has definitely been Good Will Hunting. So the subject that it handles, the way it handles it, the way how sensitively they have kind of built a film about mental health, about purely about two randomly different people kind of healing each other. How beautifully that film just comes together in all senses. I think it's brilliant, that film. Yeah. One of my
Robin
favorite films.
Williams had great range. I mean, no doubt. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday on the phone about 1 Hour Photo, which is a film I
Oh
love.
yeah.
And
So,
we were just talking about that film, and that you like kind of contrast that film with
yeah.
something like Patch Adams or Good Will Hunting and Mrs.
My
Doubtfire.
my first again a very cliched way of putting it, but my first film of Robin Williams has been Jumanji. And I remember watching that film in Alka in our theater in Pune. And then Mrs. Doubtfire. And I still feel an amazing effort by Kamal Hassan when he did Chachi Charsobis. And I think if any actor would have been able to pull it off here, it is Kamal Hassan. If it was a perfect movie for him to remake. But what a difficult film to remake as Mrs. Doubtfire, and how amazingly well he's just brought such sweetness to the lady that he played, in it. So I think Chris Columbus made some really amazing films.
Great filmmaker. Yes, absolutely. He also made the first Harry Potter, right? I think he made. Yeah.
Oh, he's made some amazing movies. Another film that I not put in the list, I don't know if I put it in it. One of my favorite films. So there's hardly a film that I have in my list that I kind of go back to every year. I prefer watching newer movies, and I've given an option. I'm not the guy who will watch the same film 10 times. I would like a few films. I would say Shawshank Redemption is one of those, but Home Alone 2 is that one movie for me that I watch I have to watch every Christmas. For me, it is that full season or the festive season of Christmas does not kind of complete if I don't either listen to the soundtrack of that movie or watch that movie. And I made my kids watch it, and I think it's phenomenal. That film, even today, after so many years, that film kind of gets you emotional and gets you after having seen it so many times. It's what a brilliant film that is.
Yeah, another example of a film that's probably just as good as the first one, a sequel where it's just as good as the first one.
Exactly, totally, man, brilliant. And so yeah, Good Will Hunting, and I would say that I would totally believe that, Robin Williams he gone too soon. I would do believe that he had one of the best range that you can see of an actor, doing stuff that is adventure, doing comedy, doing such sensitive emotional drama, and bringing so much life to his characters, and even Patch Adams for that matter. Uh, Such amazing range and such amazing, I would say, emotion that he brings to every character he plays. Phenomenally, he is.
Another thing, Aditya, that this was not in your list, but again, this is something I picked up in one of your interviews somewhere. I
Okay.
forget which one. But you mentioned one of your dream projects is to do a war drama. You said a period war drama.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you, like, what you had in mind for that film, and I mean, just the space,
So
and then what were the films that you love in that particular space?
So in war dramas, my favorite film has always been Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan, I think, is Spielberg's one of his best films. Again, very underrated because not many people do mention that movie as his films, but in his filmography. But I do feel that that film with Tom Hanks, with him in it, and with just the cast again of that film, and who could have put that lot together, and this just the pure sequence in that movie. Like I still kind of very few films, just stay with you in terms of emotion and visual. And I still do remember, that that shot where Tom Hanks is sitting against collapsed, sitting against a tank, and you got this big massive tank coming towards him, and he's firing away with his gun. In the end of the film, and you've got this suddenly that whole tank goes into flames, and you see this plane fly over it, and what a moment that is. And just the fact that these are films told with so much heart and with so much emotion. And I feel I do have a lot of war movies that are on my list. I feel Band of Brothers is also one of my favorite series that I've seen. Very well made series.
Great series, yes.
Great series. Apocalyptic again is, I think, again, a very not very regularly watched movie. People have seen maybe Hacksaw Bridge or Thin Red Line and these movies also.
Right.
But again, I think Coppola's film. I think it's Coppola's movie, right?
Apocalypse Now is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's his. So again, Marlon Brando also did it. Yeah. I do remember that. Is it from the same movie where you have these choppers fly?
Oh yeah. One of the iconic scenes. Yeah.
The Rise of the Valkyrie. I think that's the music playing, right?
Yes. It's an iconic scene.
So an iconic sequence. But I do feel a few films that I've seen and in the late 90s, are really, really well made. Again, one of my favorite films is Life is Beautiful, which is at the backdrop of World War. It is fantastic, that movie. Like the shot where, you've got the kid hiding inside this one bunker and in the slit.
Yeah.
Just march across.
Yeah. It's a heartbreaker. Yeah.
What a heartbreaking movie, man. So I think this whole the World War II and the way cinema kind of has captured the emotion of it has been great. And I do feel that as Indians we don't relate to that big event that happened in world history and politics. Directly we don't relate to it. We do relate to it, but no, we don't have a direct connection to it in terms of an emotion, I would say. But it's so human that the emotion is so universal that you do feel the plight and the anguish of the people who died fighting for their countries. The pure Holocaust. How destructive it was. And for all I don't know if things work out well. I am kind of working on something that is again war and period. So let's hope in the next couple of years that materializes and I get to try my hand out at period and war. Yeah.
Awesome. Wish you the very best with that. And you also had Jurassic Park on your list, Aditya. So that's again a film that is such a an all-time
heartbreaking film, man. In terms of visual effects, I think I had in my school we used to have this history project, and I remember in I think it was 97 or 96. I was in 5th standard. I think 5th or 4th, 5th or 6th. I think one of those times. I remember making a project about the dinosaurs, and this project was about, like, what I'd done was I had actually made these whole Brachiosaurus and Tyrannosaurus Rex and all these dinosaurs from the movie. I had actually gone ahead and recorded the soundtrack of that movie on my tape. I played the VHS of it and I recorded the whole soundtrack on a tape. And I had recorded the sound of the dinosaurs, in this film. And I had played that whole soundtrack with lights and these flashy kind of animation playing in the backdrop on the project. So we had won an award for it. But I do remember how amazing that film had purely brought, just caught your imagination. Um, it was something you'd never seen before. How well done, because using animatronics, blending it with visual effects, and it just shows you how good a director Spielberg is, and what a great command of his craft he has. I was seeing this interview of Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan says that, he met Spielberg and he asked Spielberg that, I said, I'm a big fan of your work, and I want to ask you a question. How do you shoot this shot where, if you remember this shot, there's a shot where you have this head of of T-Rex coming into the car, which is an animatronics head. And then you have the head go out in the same shot. You see T-Rex run away, which is a VFX shot. So the blend, how do you do it? And Spielberg has kind of just said, the way you do action, man, in your movies, that you just do it with your conviction, that you just go ahead and do it. The way you do the stunt, we just go ahead and do our stuff. And I feel at that point of time, in the era of films being made then, to attempt a film like Jurassic Park and to kind of pull it off so really well is a very difficult task for any director. And who better than Spielberg to have pulled it off? It's, again, I don't really rate 3, 4, 5s, 2, 3, 4, 5s of that. I don't know if there was a 5, but 2, 3, 4s of that film really well, because I think that it doesn't, nothing compares to the first part.
I agree. And Jurassic Park is like more than 30 years now. It's more than 30 years old, but the film still holds up so well. So, that's a testament to how good the storytelling and just like the effects and everything about that film is.
I think all these visual gimmicks, or all this use of technology, you could even, right from the Titanic to the Avatar to all of these films, although no matter how much effort and research goes into it, I think what we carry with us are the emotions of these movies, because it's so rare that you see a film where you see a very well written film against the backdrop of a great technically made film. And I was just having this conversation with one of my writers, where I was telling him that, we all know Jurassic Park as this movie that kind of brought the dinosaurs back to life, and they kind of had this really crazy concept. But if you really think about it, and if you kind of even today remember that film, not because only of this, you remember it because of the emotion of these misfits, who came together and became a family, where you see these two kids and these grown-ups, and have how the bond that they share and how they kind of fight for each other and what they feel through the film. I think that's phenomenal. That the way the kids were cast, and all these characters and actors, what a journey they've had in the film.
And you're also a fan of Malayalam cinema, you mentioned.
Yes, I
just wanted to talk with you about, few Malayalam, hits and what you thought about those films. But why don't I start by asking you your favorites? So let's do that first.
Very difficult to choose, man. Very difficult to choose my favorites from. It's a big list. I'll tell you what, I got kind of introduced to Malayalam cinema in 2015, 14, 15, and for me, again, the generation I got introduced to is the Fahd Fazils and Dulquer Salmans and Nivin Paulis. I started watching their movies. So I was not a big fan or even aware of the films that Mammootty, Mohanlal were making. But this lot of actors made such great films and such good movies. I remember watching Ustad Hotel. I think one of my first film that I'd seen was this film called Ustad Hotel. It's got Dulquer Salman in it, and
Right.
Bangalore days. And then just from one film to the other, I just went hunting for these movies. And now it's come to a point where if I have to choose, I would choose if between a Malayalam, a Hindi, and a Hollywood film. I would choose a Malayalam film first. Then I would go and see a Hindi film, and then I would see an American film. So I think they just also big factor about them is they don't let you down. I've gone into theater I walked into theater not knowing what to expect. Just purely, it seems like a good Malayalam film, great title, interesting trailer. Let me just go and see. And I have not waited for reviews or word of mouth to spread. And I've been so thankful that I have not, because when you watch a film not expecting much from it, and when the film kind of blows you away, then I think that the feeling that you feel in sitting in theater, experiencing that, is phenomenal. And in the recent times, the film that I felt about in the same space was Manjumal Boys.
Yeah. And, it's funny you brought up Band of Brothers just a few minutes ago. And I got a very similar vibe from Manjumal Boys. It's a very different story, of course, and it's in a very different space. But that vibe is there, about these, just friends like banding together.
Yeah. No, true. See, I had not even seen the trailer of that movie, in fact. I just know this actor, Sobin Shahir, and I know that Sobin is in it, so it's got to be a decent, at least if not a great film, a decent film. And I just went for it. I saw that film on a Friday evening, the first Friday it released. I had no idea what the film was. And I love Sushin Shah, who does music for these films. I love his work. And I kind of saw it was him, it was a couple of these actors who had seen. And I felt like, okay, I need to go and watch this film because it's got a few of my favorites in it. And after the film got over, I can't tell you how overwhelmed I was after having seen the film. It took me some time to kind of even get up and walk out of the theater, because that film just kind of shook me, to a point where I did not know how to deal with what I was feeling for a few seconds. And then I gathered myself and I said, okay, man, what an amazing movie this is. And I just it still has stayed with me. And I've told so many people to go and watch the film after that. I've caught hold of people and pushed them on my team. I've kind of dragged them to theaters, and I've made it a compulsion at a certain point of time that you have to, if you're in my team, you have to watch this movie. So in the theater, that. So yeah, great film.
It is a terrific emotional connect, no doubt.
Thoroughly enjoyed Avesham. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Avesham.
I'm a massive, huge fan of Fahad Fazil. Huge fan of him. And I do feel that he's the best actor we have in India right now. The best. So when he's kind of releasing any film, I have to watch. And I went again to watch that movie on a Friday evening. The reviews were not out. And I walked into an Andheri West Mumbai theater to a packed house on the first day of a Malayalam film. And I was so glad, that I came to the theater, because I know I was going to have fun now. Because when you have a packed theater, a film like Avesham, people kind of cheer, hoot, people dance, people go crazy. And that film has all of it in it. So, that is a film that I had a lot of fun. I love watching Brahma Yugam in the theater also, because it does give you those chills to watch a black and white movie on a big screen. Such a well-made film and a great horror movie. So recently I've seen a couple of more, but I think these are the three best I've seen this year in Malayalam cinema.
Did you like Minnal Mulli?
My favorite film. So I do know Basil, who is the director of the film. And I remember I sent him a message also saying that, this is his best work. And I did feel it was such a difficult film to crack, as even an idea level, because we've seen superhero movies, but to make a small town superhero film with such a good story and such a well-made film it was, because it had got great visual effects also. It had some really good performances with so much conviction in it. And you could see the director's vision, when he's made this film. So Minnal Murli was, I think one of my favorite Indian superhero movies.
Absolutely.
Better than Krish. So, I do look at it as maybe a 1/10 of the budget of that movie. We've
Yes.
not had a movie. Then I'll tell you again, the point is that in India, to make a good superhero film is very, very difficult as compared to any other country outside. Purely because, all your heroes in itself are doing superheroic things in films. Our whole narrative of making commercial cinema is by making superheroes out of our actors and heroes. Because you don't see Tom Cruise kind of punch a guy and him flying off 10 feet. You don't see that. You never see your action heroes in the West do that kind of action that you see a Salman or a Vijay or even any of these actors do. So the sense of making a superhero movie is all about this. You've seen that in Hulk, you've seen that in Captain America, you've seen these superheroic men fight. But here, all our heroes are superheroic. So, making a genuine superhero film in Indian scenario becomes very difficult because it's not unique. Well, people are like, okay, he's just wearing a cape because otherwise he's doing the same exact thing that any other hero is doing. So, to make your actor wear a cape and still not come across foolish, in spite of him doing regular things in cinema, is a very difficult thing to pull off. So, yeah, I think all full marks to Basil and his team to have been one of the best. And again, that film has got, I think, music by Sushin Sham. So,
Yes.
the best. Sushin Sham is, I think, one of the best music directors we have had in India and highly kind of underrated. I'm sure he's a big name down south in Kerala, but up north, people don't know about him. I don't know why, but he is phenomenal. I think, again, one of his favorite albums I've heard recently is Romancham. I don't know if you saw that movie. I love that movie. It was last year.
Yeah, I watched it.
Super fun horror comedy, man.
Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah.
Going back to Minnal Murli, what I loved about that film was, what really brings that film home, in my opinion, is Shibu's kind of seamless, convincing
Yeah.
transition to the foil, for
Yeah.
Minnal Murli, because that's so well done. And as the old adage goes, the superhero film is only good as his nemesis. So I think that's where Minnal Murli really, nails it.
Yes. I do completely believe that Dark Knight is what Dark Knight is because of the Joker.
Right.
It is, and it for me, it is the best superhero film I've ever seen. Dark Knight is a way up there, the best. So it's a great example, to have made a film where your nemesis puts you into moral dialogue. He's not just a nemesis purely on strength, but he plays games with the hero by kind of challenging his morality. And it's very difficult to kind of really write these films, but the way they've done it, Nolan has aced it in The Dark Knight. But I felt that Basil, to a great extent, did it very well in Minnal Murli.
Aditya, why do you think there is such a palpable difference between the quality and the caliber of writing in Malayalam cinema as opposed to some of the other regional cinemas? I mean, there's good cinema. Everybody's making some form of good cinema. But if you just look at Malayalam cinema, like pretty much, I think 8 out of those 10 movies that they're making, most of them are very well written movies. So they might not do well at the box office or something like that. But if you watch the films, you can tell that this is a very, it's the writing of the highest caliber. And when you look at some of the Hindi films or even Marathi films and other films, I at least, I mean, if you were to honestly assess it, there is a gap in the two.
There is, see, I'll tell you what, nobody's been able to really kind of decipher this to the T, but I do feel my assessment of this would be the fact that a lot of younger filmmakers and writers have entered the industry and have got some great producers and directors to back them in their content. I feel the form.
But don't we have that in Marathi cinema too? I mean, we have a lot of young filmmakers.
No, we don't. See, it's not about young filmmakers. It's about the right talent finding the right setup. And unfortunately, even in Marathi, we don't have the right talent finding the right setup. The problem is, in Hindi, we definitely don't have that because you always have kind of breaching the walls of a big production house and to kind of get entry and access to it and to have your script being right there is not a very easy thing for a new writer. In Malayalam cinema, I've seen how new talent gets access to big stars there. and how they purely are in it for making movies. So they kind of, right from a Fahad Fazil to all of these guys, do read scripts, even if they are written by new writers. I do feel in Hindi now it's started to happen a bit because people have realized that it's eventually a script that makes a good film. In Marathi also, there's a certain point of time this used to happen, but I still feel if you see the good films that you would rate highly in Marathi, would either be written by the directors themselves or writers on those movies, or then they have been kind of adaptations from either an iconic play or an iconic book. That's been a major difference of Marathi cinema, where new writers who've written good screenplays are very rare to find. In Malayalam cinema, they don't write from theatre, they write for cinema directly. In Marathi cinema, a lot of talent that has come to cinema has come from theatre and television. But you don't know of big Malayalam TV shows or big Malayalam plays that talent has come and made movies. So it's also a lot to do with the conditioning of the makers and where they come from, how they have kind of adapted, and from what. And in Hindi, similarly, now you see a newer generation of writers whose influences have not been the 90s and the 80s. Because now you see a lot of younger filmmakers who still maybe growing up would refer to a Wake Up Sid, or maybe even a Dil Chahta Hai for that matter, but don't refer necessarily to the 90s cinema. So you will see that shift happening in Hindi a lot more. You will see it happen also in Marathi. Malayalam cinema, smartly, and I think luckily for them, and luckily for us also, started this shift very early. And I think a great deal of the reason they have done this is because eventually, a great script is a great script only if when you see a film made out of it. If it's just on paper and it never finds the light of the day, then what's the point of it? And then that's where I feel the job of a producer becomes very important here, because he's the one who puts a film together.
Right.
And unfortunately, in Marathi, we don't have great producers. We have very handful of 2-3 producers who could qualify as good producers. In Hindi, you did see
now when
this
you say producers, are you talking about like creative producers, or because in sometimes we interchangeably use like producer and financer, the term, which are like two different things.
Yeah, but
right?
that's the
like,
problem. Producers are not financiers. People, I
correct.
don't know why people.
Right.
Finances there are a different set of people who are in
right.
the business.
They just arrange the finance, right?
To fund it. They look at it as business. Then they want to fund it. They want to make some money off the funds they put into the industry. That's not what a producer does at all. So I feel a producer's job primarily here has to be about putting a film together and getting great talent together and giving your director and your writers and your creatives the freedom and the tools to make a great film. So what a producer does is that's why when we speak about this show called The Offer, and we see how the producers put together a film and a team and they made The Godfather, the importance of the producer and the journey of a producer that he needs to make a good film.
Right.
Unfortunately, we don't have those. We have financiers who make films and they call themselves producers because they don't know otherwise. They don't know that producers what their job is. So you have people who have half knowledge about their own profession, and they kind of are out there to make films because you see it's also passion, it's also a lot of fascination, and this is a field and a business where you don't need to really qualify and get a certificate or get a diploma or a degree to be able to pursue your choice of profession in the field. So anyone can make a film here. Anyone can just walk into the industry with some cash loads of money and just say, well, I'm going to make my own film, and nobody can stop him. The point here being that Malayalam cinema has done that in a very streamlined and a very professional manner, where they have a crazy but a very healthy competition among themselves to outdo each other in terms of content. They've also, in all due fairness, they've also seen great numbers, to these films in terms of box office collections.
And that goes to the very different kind of a fan culture and
culture and a very evolved audience there who watches good cinema. So I think that is, in a certain sense, missing in Maharashtra also and in Hindi also. Okay. In Maharashtra, we have very pocketed audience. We have a very Pune-Mumbai audience being a different set of audience. We have the Konkan being a different set of audience. We have the Vidarbha Marathwada being a different set of audience. We have the South Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the North Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the West Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the South Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the West Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the East Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the West Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the Central Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the North Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the South Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the Central Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the East Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the West Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the Central Indian audience being a different set of audience. We have the North We have a Kolhapur, Solapur, again being a very different set of audience. So the taste, the culture, the understanding of cinema, the understanding of actors and content is very different in all these three areas. So it's very rare to make a film that kind of is loved by everyone. And when you kind of make those films, is when those films do 50 crore plus business. So very difficult. You see, that's why you see one film in maybe 2 years really do that. And I'll give you an example. When I made Fast of Fame, I realized when I released the film that outside of Pune and Mumbai, I would not even find 5% people who even knew about Fast of Fame. People did not even know about it. So I got kind of...
So wait, that has to do with the marketing of the film, right?
No. The character, I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
I'm not talking about the movie. See, because my understanding of making that movie was from, again, my childhood reference of having read the books, right? So I kind of assumed that people have read the books. But then I realized, and luckily for us, the film did really well in Mumbai, Pune, and the regions around Mumbai, Pune, for us to kind of say that the film was successful. But I realized that outside your Mumbai's and Pune's, people did not know of this character. They had never read the books. They had no idea of who this Fast was. So there is this big part of Maharashtra that has different culture and reference and understanding of entertainment. And because there are so many, I would say after every, say, 100 kilometers, you have a different Maharashtra that you see with a different dialect, a different food culture, a different culture in health. So yeah, I think that's why we don't have one film that does really well everywhere. You have a Pune City Pride, Kothur cinema also, which I do call it very specifically a film that runs in that pocket. And then you have a very typical Mumbai, Goregaon, Parla cinema also. So you have that. But even in Hindi film industry, you've had these...
Can you give me an example of the two? Like just one film each, so I'll get a better idea of what you're saying.
Is a very Mumbai Thane film. I would say Ni Vasant Rao is a very Pune Kothur City Pride. You get the gist of it, right? Yeah. So that's what. So there's no actually putting the exact kind of pinpointing exactly what it is, but it's also got a lot got to do with culture.
Okay.
And those kind of pockets having their own understanding of, and there's no comparison between what's good and what's bad. I would not say this is better and that is not.
Sure. Yeah.
Not that, but it's just a like and dislike and the taste of a certain area and a certain set of people.
And what needs to happen so that there is this access for fresh, new, talented writers and the big stars?
Because we're talking about the film industry, I've been saying this for the last 7 to 8 years, at least, that I can remember. That what needs to happen is we need to get some really good qualified producers who are producers who get finances to invest in them. They could be young. They could be guys who have learned the trade by assisting someone. They can't be just enthusiasts, just kind of gotten up one day and felt, let me produce a film. They have to be kind of educated and qualified individuals in this field of cinema who have kind of gone through the entire the journey of having seen how films are made very closely, and who now understand the process of making cinema, and who now are in the position to get good financing to make good films by backing good talent. I think that is what we lack the most. And if we kind of get more of this and less of the other, is when you see that shift again happen in Marathi. Unfortunately, you're seeing the exact opposite. Less of this and more of the others. And when I say more of the others, I'm about first-time producers, and not even first-time, one-time producers, I would say.
So they're just dabbling in to make a quick buck or something like that.
These are, and I have nothing against them, but see, these are guys who have additional money, just a flow of money to kind of try their hand out at investing it somewhere else. outside their main source of investments. They'll trying to diversify. They look at cinema as an opportunity to, okay, let's give this a shot. If we don't do really well, it's okay losing this money there, because at least I would have had my chance of making something different. So it's more of these enthusiasts who come to make films as producers, who have no idea what the industry and the business is, and then they lose the money that they've invested, and then they kind of have a very sour taste about the whole
Right.
process, and
Right. They're scarred for life. Yeah.
they don't make another movie. Why would they? If anybody who's lost his money in the first film would not make the next one, right? But that's the point. I do ask my friend. There's a friend of mine who said recently that I want to make a film. Yeah, it could be a small budget Hindi film, could be Marathi film, but he's a producer. He wants to be a producer, but he's a builder. He's got a very well-known construction company in Pune. So my point was then, if I told him that I can't just get up tomorrow and construct a building, right? I need to know. I won't do that. If I want to make a building or set up a scheme anywhere of buildings, I have to kind of learn, right? I wouldn't just kind of come with money and say, okay, this is the plot, I'm going to make it and start constructing. I wouldn't do that. So why should you do the same thing in my field? You should, if you want to be a producer, take a year off from your business. I'll give you leads, assist a producer, be around the whole making of a film, learn how a film is made, and then put in your money and make the next film. And he was like, are you crazy? I don't have that time. So I said, then why do you want to make a Marathi film? So then invest in a Marathi film, invest in a producer, put your money. But then that's also not what these guys want to do, because there's a certain glamour in being a producer on a film, right? And those who are investors are purely in it for the trade. So we have very less of those. So my point is this, my point is that we don't have a lot of producers who understand the business. And when I say a good producer, then a good producer's job also is promoting a film, is marketing a film, is making the film in the right budget it needs to be made in. So then we see these shortfalls, of films never reaching their audience, but the audience never being aware of when the film released and when was it in theaters also.
There's so much you had on the list, so I don't think we're going to get time to talk about all that. But you had Rahman, and I'm a big fan
now. But I think this whole discussion, I am sure, stems from a certain kind of a frustration also of why are we not making good films?
Yeah, absolutely. And more than the frustration, I mean, it is frustration, but it's also like, when somebody is doing it right, I think we owe it to ourselves to learn from them, right? So, for example, if Malayalam cinema is doing it right, then it's out there. We need to study that, and we need to find out. The culture and everything is not going to be able to be replicated. So I understand that. But as far as the process is concerned and everything, we can certainly replicate that.
Yeah, totally can. I agree with you.
Right. Let's come back to the movies and the music. And so you said Rahman is one of your favorites, like everybody's. And first of all, let me ask you: have you heard Roja's Marathi songs?
I did. I have.
They are awesome. Yeah. I discovered them, like 10 years ago. And so until then, I had no clue that the entire album exists in Marathi. But they're such cool songs, man. I mean, some of them are actually by the original singers, but some of them are also by Suresh Wadkar, and I think Uttara Kelkar has also sung some.
I think that point of time, I think they must have approached the known Marathi singers. They might know the only ones they knew of were these guys. So Suresh Wadkar has sung the main, right? The main Roja.
Yes. Suresh Wadkar has sung a few songs.
Sadhana Sargam, or who is Uttara Kelkar, I think.
Uttara Kelkar, yes. She has sung. And then I think even Chitra has sung in Marathi. Which is very cool too. What kind of influence Rahman has had on you as a creative person? I mean, you are obviously not.
Massive. I would say my entire understanding of whatever music I do know of cinema, scores, music in cinema, how music plays a major role in telling a good story, how music plays a major role in creating an impact on the audience, and how music plays a major role in kind of making your film find its space in terms of, just an important film. if you see in Indian films, the history of Indian cinema, 99% of the movies that you know of have done really well or have been your favorites, have had great music. Music is an integral part of, and I'm not saying music in terms of only BGM, I'm talking about songs, are an integral part of storytelling in Indian cinema. It could be Malayalam, it could be Marathi, it could be anything. And Rahman has been instrumental in kind of really finding that space and creating that space in music and cinema, and seamlessly kind of blending songs and BGM as in terms of one great, I would say, uh, uniform sound to a movie. Because we've always kind of known movies having different kind of BGMs, right? If you see right from the 80s and 90s, the non-Rahman films also, you've always had an ex-music director who's a different set of or a group of people, and you've had a different BGM guy. And you can feel the tonal difference of songs and music in BGM. But I think very rarely did you see maybe an R.D. Burman or a Kalyanji Anandji then, and a Rahman then after that, do all of it together, because one sound, one film. And that's when these films have also worked. Like you see a Lagan, you see a Bombay, you see a Roja, you see how great these films have worked also because how good the music on these scenes as BGM has been. And I would say, as much as I like Rahman's songs, I'm a bigger fan of his BGM. He is phenomenal in the
Absolutely.
BGM.
God
These
tier
movies.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Next level. So, luckily, I had a chance of meeting him. And when I met him, I went to the studio and I kind of told him about this guy called Senthil Kumar, who's got a website on YouTube, who's got a YouTube channel actually, who somehow manages to rip all these BGMs from his movies and
Remaster them. Yeah.
remaster them and uploads them as these playlists. And I thrive on those playlists. I told him, man, this guy is awesome. And he's like, yeah, I know of him. So I said, because we don't have access, I remember buying this audio cassette of, I think Lagan's BGM. And very rarely did you have a lot of these cassettes or the BGM, a list of BGM release as a separate soundtrack. Now you see a lot of it happening, but earlier did not. So I used to actually play Rahman's movies and record those on a tape player, just so that I had his BGM to listen to. But what iconic stuff, man. I remember watching Roja and then kind of remembering, okay, I've heard this kind of music somewhere. And then I remembered, oh, this is the same guy who did Chikabukaraile from Gentleman and the same guy who did Thiruda Thiruda. So I was like, man, crazy stuff. So it's, I think since those initial films to even till now, I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I did an episode on 90s Rahman sometime back, which is just essentially, we know you you might have heard about Karthik Srinivasan. He runs a site called Milliblog.
Yes.
So I did an episode with him, and where we just talked about our favorite Rahman numbers from the 90s.
What is your favorite Rahman number?
My favorite Rahman number is very difficult, but I'll tell you my favorite Rahman soundtrack. That has to be Thiruda Thiruda, hands down.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yes.
It took me a lot of time to arrive at my favorite Rahman album, because as you rightly can understand the predicament of a true Rahman, you can't really pick and choose. But much later, right now, in the last 2 years, I felt that my favorite Rahman album of all time is Roja.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Favorite
because
Rahman
that takes you, whenever you listen to it, it just takes you in a different place.
So see, I tell you what, every Rahman album takes me to some place or the other because it's got memory. See, I do feel, and I told this to Rahman when I met him, I said, I come from a generation where there have been two people who have kind of shaped my generation. There's you and there is Sachin Tendulkar. And there are these two iconic individuals in our lives whose achievements have a timeline in our lives also. Like, I do remember the Sharjah innings and where I was and how old I am. So my recollection of what I was when I was 12 is Sachin hammering the Aussies in Dubai, in Sharjah. So the same way, I have this memory of Roja, Tal, Yuva, Bombay, all these movies, where it did take me to that age I was there. And I remember my memories of that age are connected to these movies and the soundtracks. So that's true with most of the Rahman albums in the 90s and the early 2000s. But Roja has this great quality of having kind of been the pioneer of doing this in terms of an album, which broke through. And even today, Roja's flute interludes, Roja's pure musical pieces in these songs, just the emotion of it, are phenomenal. Like a highly underrated song is Bharat Humko Jaan Se Pyara Hai.
Love it.
Highly underrated song. If you listen to that song and just the music of the song, just the music, the arrangement of it, it is so good, man. It is so good. So I do feel definitely it does bring your childhood back. It flashes it back, but I do feel it's musically and melody, one of the most melodious Rahman albums. And after that, I have Vinay Thandi Vadhuai.
Oh yes, another excellent album. Excellent album.
Yeah. So my second favorite is Vinay Thandi Vadhuai. Yeah, it's phenomenal, that whole album itself.
Yeah.
Best tracks I've heard ever. So you were so you were talking about Thiruda Thiruda. In Thiruda Thiruda, my favorite song definitely is the romantic song.
Yeah.
So so I have what I remember 3 songs only from that movie. I don't remember the others.
There is Chandralekha, there is Veerapandi.
Chandralekha
Yeah.
is the popular number.
Yes.
So I don't remember
So the Thiruda Thiruda was also actually dubbed in Hindi. The movie never released.
yeah.
But
Chor.
Chor, yes. So but I still have the cassette. Yeah. But going back to Thiruda Thiruda, so I am a big fan of Veerapandi, but I also love Chandralekha a lot because I just love the bass on that and what.
Rasta is from which?
Same movie.
Correct.
Yes, same movie. And even the title music, which is tremendous. Recently I heard some background score. Was it KGF 2 or something? I forgot. But which nods to this particular the title theme from Thiruda Thiruda. So I forgot which one. But yeah, Thiruda Thiruda is just an all-timer for me. I mean, it has always been the CD that I go back to, to test new speakers or something like that. But also something that you always fall back on as an anti-depressant. When you're like going through a low or something like that. So I'm a big fan of Thiruda Thiruda.
I'll tell you what, but I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I feel Rahman did his best work when Sivamani was with him.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, I mean, unfortunately, that old crew that he had is no longer with him. Like, H. Sridhar passed away, his engineer, Shivamani and all those. And I think, they were all very young back then, right? So they really wanted to experiment. They were more hungry. They're taking more chances. And that, so I mean, I keep on hearing people saying that, oh, Rahman is not the same Rahman that he used to be. I mean, but come on, I mean, he has been doing this for now 30 years. So, yeah, he was all
argument to have.
Yeah, and I mean, let's hear what you have composed lately.
Yeah,
how about that? But Rahman is such a cultural force.
He's God state, nothing else.
And before moving to the rapid fire round, Aditya, we got to talk about Mani Ratnam since you said he's also a big influence on you. What was the first Mani film that you watched?
So the first Mani Ratnam film that I watched was Roja.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're old enough at that.
Yeah, I kind of see. I am an 84 born. So for me,
right.
I kind of understood cinema when I was kind of just 8, 9 and 10 is when suddenly I got kind of exposed to some great films. Luckily for me, Roja was the first film of Mani Ratnam's I saw. And then later on, I kind of explored his previous work. But I had seen Roja, Bombay, I had seen Dil Se, all those films in kind of the usual theatrical going to the theaters and watching them. So I did correlate Rahman to be a big part of those movies also. Now, you can't take the music out of these movies, because I think the music also plays such a big role in these films that he's made. Till even O Kadal Kanmani. I think OK Kanmani was superb with Rahman and him, and how they kind of pulled it off, because it's such an unlikely film at that age for a filmmaker to, and at that stage for a filmmaker to make. I can understand maybe when Shad Ali made Satya here, it was like, it was a transition where it was okay for, a new filmmaker to make a film like Satya. So when Manitnam made that film there, I could understand it then. But at the peak of his career, when he was such an iconic filmmaker, to attempt a film like OK Kanmani, I think was phenomenal. So yeah, I think he's one of those guys who's got a great understanding of commercial meets content meets social cinema, and he's represented these themes in his movies. May it be terrorism, may it be religious wars, may it be inter kind of it, just name it. He's patriotism. It could be such important big emotions, but done so well, in his movies, and made as these out and out commercial films, which entertain you. So yeah, man, it is not easy to kind of blend these different genres together and so successfully do it. So there's, at one side of, you could say, Nayakan and Thalapadis are those classic films that he's made. But then Alay Paithu again is then a classic romantic film, and O Kadal Kanmani. But I do feel Dil Se, Roja, Bombay are very, very, very important films to have made, which kind of Guru still I would not put in this space, because Guru again was a very biographical film. But these 3-4 films I would feel Yuva were films that are so important movies to make. And he's done a phenomenal job. And I don't
Yuva is a great film. Yeah, Yuva is also underrated.
I don't see any filmmaker play this kind of balance so well the way he does with cinema. So I think he's the best we have had.
Are there any particular moments, songs, or anything from films that you have used as references for your movies? Anyway?
Yeah. So when I've kind of shot a lot of films that I've made without songs being ready, and you do shoot, a lot of films you make even today when you don't, there's no lip sync, and you shoot the songs and then you do music on it, then you do a song on it. So I've used, in terms of mood, I've used a lot of his songs on my set, right from Chaya Chaya, when I wanted a kind of a very high energy, because it's got rhythm and a beat that can be so easily recreated. It's not that you copy it, but when you have an actor being given that cue on set, and whenever you make a song later on, you know that the cue has not gone wrong when you give it on set. So that's, I think, one of the favorite songs. One of my favorite songs of him is Chaya Chaya. Then I've used a lot of songs from Roja. And more than a cue on for music, I've used a lot of his BGM stuff. A lot of his BGM when I've edited my movies. Like a Rahman BGM has to be a part of my my rough edits. So my rough edits actually kind of have these Rahman soundtracks, which I've cut my scenes around. And then
this is awesome. Okay, can you give some examples, Aditya? I would love to hear.
Yes, I have a big library of his BGM, and then when you kind of are editing a scene, you try to put some music on it and you see whether the emotion of it works or not. So I kind of go and pick out from the library of music that I have of his too, and I do recollect when I see the title of the track, I know what theme it is. So I kind of place specifically for emotions. So with Munja, I did that. With Munja, I used a lot of his BGM when I was cutting the film. And I'm giving you a recent example. That's why Munja. I've done it on every film.
Yeah. And which BGM was this?
So I have used BGM from Guru. I have used BGM from for specifically the Ajji scenes, the emotion scenes. So what I've done is, wherever I used to cut the scenes of the grandmother and the grandson and their scenes, whatever these 3-4 scenes are, I used to use the BGM from Rahman's music, and just so that you get
That
the
is so
emotional.
cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of filmmakers do.
A lot of people do that. Yes.
Yeah, it
And
gives you a certain sense of emotion to what the scene could be, and then when you do music on it later on, it gives you a certain confidence that, okay, you can get the emotion right. So when you get putting the edit together, it does it does give you that confidence that that okay, it just makes it sound better, the Rahman BGM. Okay, I'm going to tell you a very interesting story which nobody knows of. I have not spoken about this anywhere because it is my bad luck, and to a certain extent my good luck, that I would also feel that this story kind of brings together. But having been a massive Rahman fan, and always kind of being looking. So when you say Rahman is God, for me, I do believe Rahman is God-like for me. In that space, he shaped my life, my career, my emotional graph growing up through his music. I had finished writing Munja, and we were just discussing, me and the producer, that who do we go for music for the film. And the first few immediate names that come to your mind, because it's a Maharashtrian setup, is an Ajay Atul or an Amit Trivedi or even Sachin Jigawar. And Dhiru said, how about Rahman? And I said, okay, what is this? Where did this name come from? So he said, I have done Mimi with him, and he's a friend of mine, and we've had a great time working on Mimi. So take a shot at it. Go narrate the film to him. If he likes the film, says yes to it, then we'll see how it goes. So I was super excited. And he shared a number of Rahman's manager with me. So I said, okay, great. So I called the manager. The manager said, you can come 2 days later. He said, you can come to Chennai, narrate the film to him. So I kid you not, Himanshu, I felt, I I could feel like the land kind of like under my feet being dragged out. I was like, what the fuck? I'm going crazy. How do I narrate a film to Rahman? But I said, no, I have to do it. So I went all prepared, and then I landed in the afternoon. And the manager said, sir is busy today, hold a recording, so he'll meet you at night. I said, hey, no problem. Whatever time he wants to meet me, I'll be there. And I actually felt like I had fever. Just the the, the anticipation of narrating a film to Rahman for me was a big deal. So I went, and it was outstanding, man. I just went, he was there, he said, "Arey, come, sit, and I narrated the film to him. And he actually said, your film has a Maharashtrian setup, like a full Maharashtra setup. I've not done a film in that setup. I've done Bengal, I've done Punjab, I've done South, I've done North, I've not done, so I would love to do this film." And I said, what the hell, Rahman is actually doing my movie. And then he called my producer from there and he said, okay, we are doing this. I would love to do this. And count me in. And this is before we had started shooting the film. So he said, the thing is, I don't see songs in the film directly, but there is scope for BGM and all that. So you shoot the film first and then come to me with the film. And then we'll kind of start working on it. And if you want to, if there are some songs you want to use in the film, use them, my music as my reference. So kind of I'll score on it later. And so then we got into production, and then the production took some time, and my edits took time, and then my VFX, because see, Munja is a film where I could not go to him without VFX in it, because there's no creature, no character, he would not understand what's going on. So that whole pipeline took a long time to put together. And then when I reconnected with the team, they were like, he's not, next 3 months, he's not going to be in India, he's going to be in LA, then he's going to come back, and he has 2 commitments of movies, so he can do your film after these 6 months. My producer was like, guys, we have to release this film in June. We can't wait for 6 more months for him to start working on it. Because my entire timeline goes for a toss, because I want to release this film before 3-2. And I do feel your film is a holiday film. It has to release in the summers. You should not release your film post-summers. So I think we'll have to let go of Rahman right now. Like, okay, shit. I have lost my chance of working with him. And then he had come, and then my producer told me that he's doing Chhawa, which is another film of Maddox, which Lakshman Uttekar is
Right.
directing in it. So Chhawa he's doing. So he had come recently to office, and before Munja released, a couple of weeks before, he had come to office, and he asked my producer, "What happened to that movie of yours when your director never came back?" So I I told my producer, "I hope you told him that the timeline did not match. Otherwise, there was no chance I would not go back to Rahman." So it just so happened that with Munja, Rahman couldn't be a part of the film and do the film, but it was just kind of a very close interaction that I had with him that in those couple of days in Chennai. But what an amazing time that is!
Yeah, yeah. Well, here is wishing that you and he work together on your war epic. That would be
Oh man,
something.
seriously,
That would be something.
that would be
Because
something.
Rahman is that kind of guy, he's like our John Williams. He is that person who can really, get that emotional, churned out.
Totally.
It could be something. Finally, Aditya, we're going to play a round of rapid fire game I call Shoot, where I'm going to ask you simple questions and you're going to shoot back answers without thinking too much and being perfectly honest.
Oh, sure.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. One Indian film of 2024 you wish you had made.
2024. A film that will release now in the next 2 days is 3-2. I wish I would have made that film. I saw it now.
Wow.
And I am telling you, it's one of my favorite films. But one Indian film of 2023 I wish I would have made was 12th Fail.
Nice.
Yeah, one of my favorite films. I think one of the best films I've seen being made in India. So, yeah, it's 24 now. By the time your interview is out, people would have seen 3-2. But what a fun film to watch and make. And I wish I would have made that film. But the film that will really stay close to me, the recent film in Hindi that was made, was 12th Fail. Yeah.
A favorite Ramsey Brothers film?
Why do you have to kind of you mean in the pulpy space of it? Because I
pulpy, yes, absolutely. In hardcore Ramsey Brothers film.
I think is that a Ramsey film? Haveli, what is it called?
Purani Haveli?
Purani Haveli.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
It's a Ramsey classic, yeah.
Yeah. Purani Haveli, yeah.
Okay. Mani Ratnam film you would love to reimagine?
You know what? I've realized now in life that the classics have to be left at what they are and not touched because it's not easy to recreate. A film of Mani Ratnam's I wish I was on the set of when he was making that film was Bombay.
Okay.
Yep.
Any particular reason why?
I just feel the canvas, the scale, the locations he shot the movie in, just right from your the song, like it's you just see the visuals in that film, right? Like they'll say still I think it's a very well shot film, but I feel Kehna Hi Kya to Tu Hire to these old, interesting, lovely monsoons to amazing these Bombay, which is shot very grim and dark. I think it's outstanding, that movie. So I wish I was on the set of a Mani Ratnam film. That would have been a film. That would have been Bombay. Yeah.
Okay. Most underrated Imtiaz Ali film?
Tamasha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gun to your head, Godfather or Godfather 2?
Godfather 2.
Favorite M. Night Shyamalan film?
It has to be Sixth Sense. Has to be. Although
Okay.
I'll have loved Signs, it's my second. It's a really good film. I think it's one of my favorites, Signs and even Village. But his favorite film, without a doubt, it has to be Sixth Sense. Yeah.
A genre you would like to explore in Marathi?
In Marathi, a genre I would love to explore is, again, I would, as I said, and this is an interview I've given actually in Marathi when you quoted where the war, period war movie.
Okay.
Is for Marathi film that I'd said this. So,
so you are planning that film in Marathi?
No, I'm planning in Hindi. But one film I would like to make in Marathi was exploring exploring period and war. And it could be even war set up in a period that would be 400 years ago. So it doesn't have to be very contemporary warfare, but yeah, I would love to do a period epic film.
One thing you would like to change about Marathi cinema?
As I said, I would love to see more qualified newer producers come and make films and empower these young talented directors to make great films.
Gun to your head, Ashi hi Banwa Banvi or Thartharat?
Ashi hi Banwa Banvi, without a doubt. Ashi hi Banwa Banvi is iconic. So you know this, right? The Sarpotdar, Vishwas Sarpotdar.
Yes. And you use that in Zombie.
Yeah. And the longest of times, like my friends felt that my grandfather was Sudhir Joshi, but it was not. It was. But man, what a film! I think it's one of those andaz apna apnas, where you remember every dialogue, every scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Aditya, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I hope I didn't bore you for too long.
No. Why do you think so, man?
So
I hope we don't bore the listeners.
No. My listeners love this kind of really deep dive kind of film talk. So that's why I try to really concentrate on the films, and because I know a lot of people talk about the personal journey as well, and that's also interesting. Yeah. But absolutely. I try to do something different. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Good conversations are those that you don't give you a sense of time, and I think we've lost sense of time in this
and twice. Yes.
Twice, which has been a good thing. So I hope people listening to this conversation also enjoy the way we've enjoyed talking. So thanks a lot for having me on your show. And it was a very, I think, a very introspective yet fun, yet a very, I think, a very one-to-one personal. In Marathi, I call it gappa.
Yes,
because these are gappas. These are chit chat.
Yes,
rather than a very it's this, and we love to do that in Pune. And katyavarcha gappa is what I call it.
Yeah,
is I rarely get to do now because you get chance to.
It's in our blood. Yes,
it's in our blood. So I do see. Without gossiping, katyavarcha gappa is what we do.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
If you like the episode, do consider supporting the show. Your support will help me continue creating content like this. You can find the link for supporting the show in the show notes and on the pod website. Also, do share this episode on Twitter, Insta, or Facebook. And do subscribe, rate, and review the pod wherever you listen to your pods. You can follow me on Twitter and Insta at loveofcinemasf8. Feel free to reach out there or by email with your comments, feedback, and suggestions. You can find my email in the show notes. That's the episode. This is Himanshu signing off. And as always, thank you for listening to the Love of Cinema podcast.